This is Frank Furness, and welcome to Speaking Success Strategies, where we go all over the world. We meet some of the world's best speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, and we learn from them. And today, not only one of the best speakers, but also a great buddy of mine, and he's sitting there laughing at me again because we just have so much fun together. Hey, Stef, welcome, man. Great to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, Stef du Plessis.
Hey, Frank, how are you, buddy? Frank, I don't know how long we've known each other. It's a long, long time. And I think we've not just known each other. I think we've been good friends throughout. Frank, I want some of what you're taking, buddy. Your energy and your enthusiasm is just annoying. And it has always been that way. And it doesn't fade. So, Frank, you and I are at opposite points of that spectrum. So I'm not going to try and emulate that in this conversation. I could never do that. I'm going to be me, you be you, and we see how it goes, okay?
I love it. So what we're going to start with, Stef, tell us all about you. I love your whole story is so brilliant, how you went from the military days, how you got into speaking. And I mean, I remember when I started speaking, you were like one of my heroes. I was like, I want to be like that guy one day. So tell us your story, Stef, how you got started. Oh, look at that there. Hello, gorgeous.
This is Zev. Zev is Hebrew for wolf. And Zev is almost 3 years old. And in the Jewish tradition, as you know, boys don't cut their hair for the first 3 years. Zev, that's my friend, Frank. We're speaking to some of our other friends, and you're going to have to go back to Gran, okay?
The curtain's really long.
Hey?
The curtain's really long.
Yes, your hair is really long.
No, the curtain's really long.
Oh, the curtains are really long.
I can't see.
There, behind Frank. So say, bye-bye, Frank.
Zev, go back to Granny now. She's got 3 big chocolates and a piece of cake for you.
Go to Gran, okay? Frank, edit that out or leave it in.
No, that's fine. I'm going to leave it in. That's part of
whatever works for you. So on that note, briefly, let's go back to where we were. Let me quickly touch on my chirp about your energy. Frank, I've always been inspired by your energy. We really are on different spectrums, on different ends of that spectrum, but I've always been inspired by your energy. And what's really cool is that it's authentic. You are that way. And I envy you for that. Moving on. So we might talk about it, we might not, but I'm in a studio environment. And Zev, my little grandson who just popped in, they would normally never be in the studio if I was working. I think they just knew that I was speaking to a mate, which is why Zev came in. Back at you, Frank, you were asking me, so how did I get into this? Frank, we want to keep this brief as well. So maybe the nutshell version. Our mates out there who are watching this may or may not know of that 23-year-long war that South Africa had, of which I was trapped in the last decade of it. There was a conscription service in South Africa, conscription system in South Africa, compulsory national service. You went to the army for 2 years or you went to jail for 3 years. I'm a virtual school dropout who went to 8 schools. So when the army came around, I thought I was going to go there and teach them a lesson like I had taught all of my teachers. I could make my teachers cry. I thought I was going to go there and make my instructors cry. They didn't. 5 o'clock on the first day, they made me cry on the first morning, and it shifted my perception. So I didn't just do that original national service that we had to do. I had nowhere to go after that. My parents had immigrated. I was alone in South Africa. I stayed on for a few years. Long story short, I'm in my mid-20s. I meet her on a bus. You know her very, very well, Frank. And she was the first liberal thinking individual that I ever met. So for those of you who are not liberals, this is where you tune out. And that's just fine. Those of you that are, she was the first liberal person that I met. I was an officer in elite units, and I had never been exposed to a different point of view or a frame of reference. Anyway, through my exposure to her, I came to realize that I wanted to live a different life. I left the full-time army, but in the South African system, I had to stay in the part-time army for another 12 years. So for 12 years after that, I continued to go back for military service every single year, 1 month, 3 months, 1 month, 3 months. And in that part-time environment, I went on, and as you know, I became a lieutenant colonel in the airborne and continued to serve throughout until the end of that war. But with my perception changing as we go along. Frank, I think you should edit some of this out because that was too long a story. I meet her, I decide I'm going to change my life. I quit the army where I had done exceptionally well, and I end up not getting a job for 6 months. I end up becoming a cash in transit truck driver. I was an officer in an elite unit, in an operational unit, and I end up driving cash for a security firm. I almost went back to the army, but I was so determined to make myself another life. I became a life insurance salesman, just like I think you were once on a time. Absolutely. And the reason I became that is because there was literally nothing else that I could become. Anyone out there watching, it has all changed. Financial services is not what it used to be back then. But back then in 1982, we still knocked on doors. And that's what I did. I was a slow starter. I really battled. Let me go faster here. Frank, I learned to sell. I started becoming a junkie of personal development content. I attended Alan Pease's programs over and over and over. I watched our mutual friend W. Mitchell's videos over and over and over. And I learned to get a grip on my life. I became successful at sales to the extent that I got invited to speak at a convention where the president of the $1 Million Round Table from America, it was in South Africa, where the American president of the MDRT was in the room. It's the world's biggest sales association. And he invites me to speak there the next year. I didn't know that at the time, but it is a lifetime ambition for speakers to speak on the main platform of the MDRT. I knew I was in the big league when I got there the next year. It was my first big engagement. I was still doing financial services. Deepak Chopra was the speaker just before me, and I was out of my depth. But there were 10,000 people from 70 countries in the room. So my career trajectory is different to what some of our colleagues evolved as career trajectories. I suddenly became a literally fully booked keynote speaker, and I started working internationally from the get-go. But soon I realized I wanted to do more than just be a motivational keynoter. I went to school. I got myself a master's degree in leadership. You know, the cute story is that my professor quit his job when I graduated to come and work for me, to come and run my leadership programs. I met my business partner, Steve Simpson, around that time. Steve is the creator of a culture concept called UGRs, Unwritten Ground Rules. Steve and I partnered 20 years ago. It's now more than 20 years. And we now do two things. We do my old people development stuff, and we do the culture stuff. So we do employee engagement and workplace culture transformation, but on a process-driven, system-based, enterprise-wide basis, where we still speak at events, both him and I, but now we really make our living working with companies in two games. Some employ less than 1,500 people. Others are large corporates. We are lucky that our clients include some of the world's biggest. McLaren is a client. Barclays Bank used our stuff in 50 countries. The list goes on. We were just lucky. I've lucked out. From the day I met her, Frank, I've lucked out over and over and over and over. Not to say, I'm done. Not to say it hasn't also been tough and complicated. And right now, it is tough and complicated. Business is hard. Business is different. We are 18 months into COVID. And Frank, it's a different business. My whole game has changed, but I'm standing, here we are, and that is how I got into doing what I do now. Edit 12 of those 14 minutes out, and you might have what you were looking for, Frank. Back at you, my buddy.
I tell you what, there's some magic there because you know exactly what you're teaching. You gave us all of those. So for any speakers watching this, know exactly what you're doing and know who your target audience is. You gave that all to us. That's the starting point. So many speakers I know. Who do you speak to? Anybody? What do you speak on? Anything. That's crazy. You've actually got to know who your target audience is.
So we both know that our American friends, Frank, you and I have both been lucky to have exposure internationally to other speakers, and we are well connected with our mates in the industry. So I continue to be well connected with my mates in the speaking industry here and abroad. And we continue to hang with groups of speakers, with other speakers. Frank, as you know, not part of my claim to fame, but for context, I'm the founder of the Speakers Association, the PSA in South Africa. It's now a mature enterprise. It's not my legacy. It's not what my life was about, but speakers continue to benefit from it because I benefited in the years prior to it existing here from me attending the NSA in America, the PSA in England, and in the other countries. My point is this. We learned from our American mates that we need to, there's a fancy word for it, Frank. I don't even know the word. When you give me the word,
Niche.
When you niche. Now, the difference between me and my immediate peer in America, if there was somebody who does exactly what I do, and I was in America, their market is big enough for them not only to niche by topic, but by industry and domain. So I am still a generalist in terms of who my clients are. Right now, I'm working with NHS in the UK, a division of theirs. I'm working with Total on their oil rigs in the North Sea. I'm working with small companies here and abroad, companies that employ less than 1,000 people. So those are very different bundles. And that is not niched. But what is crystal clear is that I do only two things: employee engagement and workplace culture transformation. They are wide domains, and inside them, I play a little bit, but it's only those two things. I get a request for an after-dinner session. Somebody hears me speak, and they think that I would be good at the after-dinner event. We don't even enter the conversation, Frank. It's not what I do. I am crystal clear on that. If that was a question, then I hope I've answered. Let me hand back to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly what we got to do. And for the new speakers, that's what you've got to be doing. I mean, one of the things I've always...
Yeah, but not, whoa, Frank, not for the new speaker. I think we need to earn our sea legs a little bit.
Yes.
I don't think I would be able to do what I do now if I hadn't gone through that phase of doing more, of taking the team building jobs, of taking the facilitation job, of taking the keynote job, of taking the breakout job. If I didn't do that over many, many years, I don't think we would have been able to bring it to here.
So
Make sense?
Absolutely. And I mean, here's the other thing is sometimes people are, I'm a trainer, I now want to just be a keynote speaker. You're not just a keynote speaker, you're a business. And that's a big difference. And I think for so many of us now, COVID has hit us. And, you know, any speaker that says, I'm making absolute fortunes, well, I don't know if I'm going to believe them, because the real honest speakers, I was speaking to Alan Pease the other day. He said he had to pay back $75,000 in deposits, you know. So the real genuine guys are going to say, bloody hell.
So there's a twist in that tail. There are two twists in that tail. There are three twists in that tail. The first twist in the tail is, I wish I was holding $75,000 worth of deposits, my buddy. That's the first twist in the tail. The second one is Alan Pease is largely responsible for me having become successful at sales. Alan Pease in 1983 came to South Africa on his roadshow, and I paid money that I didn't have. I paid 36 months on my credit card to attend his training. And Maureen, with whom the one thing we have never thought about is money. It's not one of the things that we deal with it together. But I recall her saying to me that I need to decide. I remember her telling me that I was spending money we couldn't afford. And I told her we couldn't afford not to spend it. I know that's cliched, but as recently as in the last year, I booked the studio, which with money we couldn't afford. But Frank, I wouldn't still be in business if I didn't make that investment. And no, you do not need a studio, viewer. You do not need a studio. My style, my personality, my methodology, my clients, my processes requires me to have a studio. Alan Pease was him and W. Mitchell together were the two thought leaders that shifted my world. Then I became successful at sales. Then I got the opportunity to speak. Then I did okay at speaking. Then I got the fortune, the privilege of starting the Professional Speakers Association. Alan Pease spoke at our remote convention just in April. And in the Q&A, I suddenly figured out that while I was chatting to him in the Q&A, I suddenly figured out Alan Pease is responsible for there being a Professional Speakers Association in South Africa. Connect the dots.
Yep.
If I hadn't attended his program, somebody else would have started it. But for it having started in the way when it did, at the time that it did, Alan Pease has that credit. Him and Mitchell. I can't remember where we were, Frank. Where were we?
So, and again, I think the great thing about that is for you and me, they are both great mates now. And that's the best part. The people that we've admired have become our really good friends.
Yeah.
The only part I don't like is Alan said last week he made 100 grand. I mean, come on, Alan. Jeez, like, where does that leave us? Firstly, you're just saying you just lost 75 grand. I'm thinking, okay, there we go. I just made 100 grand last week. Oh, well, let's just. So, Stef, the one thing I've always admired about you is you're the total professional. I remember when I first got started, people had their one sheets and their little thing. You actually had, I still got it here, that whole big plastic thing with your book. Everything you've done is the total pro.
Frank.
Anyone in the speaking world now, take a look at this.
Wait. Let me just turn to my green screen quickly.
Take a look at this. There we go. And how old is that? 20 years? VHS tapes. Wow. And audio tapes.
This was my demo pack, Frank. Now, it is not on camera. No one ever sees this. It just happens to be on the bookshelf behind me in this set in the studio.
Wow. Amazing.
Oh, Frank. How far does this not go back, my buddy?
At least 20 years. I used to show that to speakers and say, this is what you've got to be like one day. There we go. I mean, look at that. The old cassette tapes. Wow. Amazing.
Okay, so that was then, Frank.
Now, Stef, what we want to see now is how you've moved on with COVID. Most people haven't moved on. Show us your studio setup. You just blew my mind before we started, yeah? Show us what you've done and how you've changed and why you've done it.
Frank, let's do this the quickest way we possibly can. So I'm in a real studio with not brick and mortar. This is wallpaper on a wall. This wall is wallpaper. This is my garage. It used to be my garage. So it is 4 meters by 6 meters. It now has dry walls in it and so on and so on. I have carpets on the floor, mats on the floor, which if I step on them changes. I've got 2 proper studio cameras in here. They are swivel and tilt cameras. I'm not a technical. Frank, you know that between you and me, do you remember our days in the East when we went and bought gadgets? And back then, I speak with fond memory. In your case, back then, both our wives were always on our case about us going on those jaunts and coming back with bags of kit. I still have shit that I have never opened the boxes of. Anyway, so these are swivel and tilt cameras. I don't ever know the technology well enough. I'm a good user. I've got good people behind me who set it up. So they pan and swivel and tilt. I step on a mat. And normally I would step on a mat more smoothly. My transitions would be more smooth, but I'm not trying to now impress you or anyone out there. I'm giving you a demo of what's possible. And then I can change the setting and change the energy just a little bit. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. That should still not happen. That should be more transitional. And so this is the, I don't know, give it a name, the chat environment of the studio. It's new. It's about 3 or 4 months old. When COVID came, I knew immediately that it was going to be with us for a while. Frank, you and I are both good mates with Graham Codrington, the futurist. Graham is a good mate. We work together sometimes. We pass each other clients. We collaborate. And I knew through Graham and through her. So Frank, you know, not everyone else out there knows, Maureen continued to be a doctor until about 12 years ago. She was a very successful doctor when she was crossing the road and a random guy on a random afternoon, just like the sunscreen song says, 10 past 3 or 10 past 4 on a random Thursday afternoon, stuff happens that changes your world. Frank, it is rude of me saying that to you because, dude, you know that yourself. She's never been able to work a day as a doctor again, but she had specialized in tropical diseases and infectious diseases. So she was the chief medical officer of the infectious diseases hospital in South Africa at one time. My point is she knows about infectious diseases and no, it's not a little chip that somebody's planting in your head when they give you a vaccination. So through her and my relationship with Graham, the futurist, who told me day one, this is here to stay. I knew it was going to be here to stay. So I moved instantly. I was speaking in Australia 3 or 4 days before lockdown in South Africa. I got back here a day or two before, and I knew that I had to gear up. So I spent 2 days running from shop to shop, buying stuff that I could just start a little behind my laptop studio with, and it happened in a spare room in the house. And it's just evolved and evolved and evolved. And that kit still exists. Let me see if I can make the camera tilt for you. That kit still exists. It works back to front. So now I would never in a presentation with clients swivel and tilt the camera like this. I'm doing this for you. There.
That's brilliant. Wow, that's amazing.
Frank, is the entire old studio. There, on that shelf, is an entire old studio. A sound system, a little computer that you can't see there now, everything you need. Why am I showing you that? Because it continues to work and it's my backup now. When I do a big session like I did for a bank today, I have the studio running and I have that backup system running on a completely different internet connection, completely independently, and I connect from 2 accounts, that account and this account. And if the studio were to crash, then I would go over to that system immediately. You were saying, give you a tour of the studio. So that from that little studio in the spare room, it evolved and evolved. We've been in this studio now for about a year. It continues to evolve. And I can, on this side of the studio, I'm looking for, let's just say, let me put a slide on the back. If this was a content slide, Frank, I can now present, not everyone needs to do this. Frank, your studio is completely different. And in the conversation earlier, I told you, dude, I've done it wrong. I should just have done what Graham Codrington, what my business partner, Steve Simpson, and other successful speakers have done. For me and my style and my personality, this works because I can now speak to content just like I was in a room. I learned from Ron Arden in the many sessions that he coached me. I learned not to use pictures of words. Okay, so here is a picture of words, but you know what I mean. So yeah. I use slides just for visual enhancement, but it gives me the opportunity to be in here without doing the green screen thing. I then have the ability to put that picture straight into my presentation with a push of a button. Frank, one of the cool things is that when you play videos into a Zoom or a Teams meeting, it always lags and jumps. Frank, yes or no?
Absolutely. Yep.
I can play smooth video through, I have a separate computer that runs content only, connected to the 810 Mini. It puts the video straight in there, and through the studio runs on its own computer. It's got its own sound system. It's got its own stuff. But what I can then do is, in a moment that I want to really grab people's attention, I can do transitions like this that make it feel more personal, more comfortable. And I can draw them in and speak as if I'm having a real conversation with them so that they feel that I'm not everyone needs this, but so Frank, that they feel that I'm not peering out from behind my laptop. It suits my style. Nobody else out there needs to go and build this, but this is what works for me. So
that's amazing.
It also means that I can't work in my jammies. I have to get dressed. Okay. So I just put this on the chair just now when you, a moment ago, when we were speaking, but I can come and have an informal moment here with people during a session and so on and so forth. Frank, that's my studio. Does anyone else need to build this? No, they do not. Does it work for me? Hell yes.
And what software are you using? Ecamm Live?
Frank, I swear I don't know. I'm not posing with you, my friend. I'm not trying to be posh with you, making out as if I have people who do that. I have no idea. I know I'm not using Ecamm Live, Frank.
Okay.
I'm not using Ecamm Live. I know that, the ATEM comes with its own software, Frank.
Okay, right.
And I know that I use the software from the ATEM because when I record videos directly to disk now, when I'm producing product, I don't need to start a fake Zoom call with myself to be able to record. I can record straight to disk, and I know I do all of that through the ATEM software. Did that answer you, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. That's why I've always said you've always been leagues ahead in terms of marketing, technology, all of that kind of stuff. And I think many people watching or listening to this can learn a lot from you because you are the ultimate pro.
Yeah, Frank, but I also told you in our private conversation earlier that if I was smarter with my purchases through the last 30 years while I've been a speaker, I would have had something behind me financially. I've spent what I've made back in the business. Family travel and reinvestment back into the business is what I have spent my money on for 30 years. So, Frank, the truth is, you know what? It's different strokes for different blokes. We each do this the way that works for us. We each need to figure it out for ourselves. And I must stop beating myself up about should I have built the studio. Frank, I do full day sessions. Remember, I run programs and interventions. I do keynotes, but I also run interventions, use our UGR's concept and run full on interventions. NHS in the UK, the division that I'm working with, Frank, we've been at it for months now. I've trained up champions for them. I facilitate sessions for them with their exco. I've spent time with all of their staff. Steve, that's my partner, Steve Simpson, and I have done a full day, 8-hour day with their entire team online. And I can't do that without this. But you can. And I applaud you for that.
So the thing really, you've got to do what works for you. And I mean, your style, I love your style as well, you know, soft and gentle and quiet. And we've had some fun around the world. I mean, there's just so much we've picked up today already. And what I love to almost finish with, Stef, is the people getting to know the real you. What is it that turns you on? What do you like doing? What are your sports, your hobbies? When you're not speaking.
You should know better than to go there with me. You should know that. So I don't know if you want to go there. Frank, edit it out. Frank, the only thing that matters anything to me in my life is my family. My wife and my 2 daughters, my sons-in-law and my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And the only thing that makes me happy, the only thing that inspires me, the only thing that matters to me is them. Everything else is a sideshow. Frank, you didn't want to go here. Edit it out, my friend. But you know that, you know that I have spoken at most of the association conventions, including main stage at NSA in America. The reason I'm saying, not at the newer associations, because I've stopped doing that. But I've said this on all of those stages to all of my speaker friends and colleagues. I'm not doing this because I feel that I touch and heal and change lives. Frank, I'm doing this because it sure the hell beats selling life insurance.
I agree.
I'm doing this because it sure as hell beats what I did in my first career as a soldier. I'm doing this because I'm good at it. I'm doing this because it does benefit people. Today I did a session where I got very meaningful feedback. But I don't feed off that feedback. I don't do this because I touch and heal and change the world, Frank. I do this because it's the business model that I have chosen, and it's how I make a living. It is the best way that I can make an honest living through truth, through being authentic, through telling my truth, which is not everyone's truth. So what works for me, Frank? my family.
Mm.
Not the answer that everyone would want, but it is the answer that is.
Yeah. And again, as a speaker, trainer, whatever, you've got to do what turns you on. Since I've been on my own for 10 years now, I've really made this a lifestyle business. I want to travel.
I know that.
Places where I want to go. And you've got to do what works for you. You know, that's the bottom line in this business. And you've got to love it. What other job? I mean, remember the rejection we used to get from insurance? Man, oh man, working nighttime, working weekends. Stef, you get onto a first-class ticket plane, you travel to Singapore, you stay in the best 5-star hotel, you go and speak for 45 minutes, and you come back with more than most people would earn in a year. I mean, so, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, at the close of our conversation, don't want to be a bummer. Heartfelt, bro, edit it out, or let's shoot a completely different video. I am on a plane next Sunday night for the first time in 18 months. I'm going to Kenya for our mutual friend, Sefer.
Yep.
Sefer is taking me and another very good friend, Quentin Kutsia. Quentin, one of the best speakers I've ever heard in my entire life. Sefer is taking the two of us to Kenya. It's my first away trip. Frank, I've done no live events. I have not had meetings. I have not had live meetings, and I have had no live events in these 18 months. I'm anxious about traveling. Let me connect the dots. So Sefer will fly me first class, and he does have me picked up at the airport.
Yep.
And he puts me in a really nice penthouse suite.
Yep.
But Frank, dude, I'm sorry. I've never enjoyed that. It works for me when Maureen can come with me, and I don't mean to be. Frank, we are such good friends. Our lives have turned out different with what's happened in your life and what's happened in my life. So the travel has never. I've never loved the travel, Frank. I don't love what I do. I do it the best I can because it's important, because it's true, because it does benefit individuals and organizations. But Frank, because it is my chosen career, because I chose to become as good at it as I can, but this is, I am built so differently from most of the others, my good speaker friends, that it is not the thing that brings me joy. Frank, I have no desire to be in rooms with people again, ever. I am happy being a recluse here in this room for the rest of my life. And Frank, maybe we shouldn't edit this out because it's different.
But you are, absolutely.
You know, maybe there's somebody out there with who this can resonate. And if anything that I did here resonates for anyone, look me up. My intentions are always better than my execution. I am time-starved, so somebody might have to tug on me to get attention. Please tug, and I will give generously as much as I can if anything I've said resonates with anyone. Why does what I do make me happy? Because it has created lifestyle and a life for my family. And by extension, then, it's the best thing that I could possibly do. Frank, I could never earn in any other lifetime what I earn doing this. Even though it's tough right now, I am not printing money. But this is Frank, this is a great job. Yep. We agree on that.
Stef, always great points. Behind that hard exterior lies a soft heart. Everybody listening and watching today, my great friend, Stef du Plessis. Thanks so much.